My mom invited my ex to my wedding, then tried to convince everyone we were soulmates. Now my family is turning against me and my new wife. I, M30, started seeing June, F29, about 3 years ago. My mother has never really liked June for a couple reasons, the main one being the fact that June didn't let my mom push her around. She kept firm boundaries, which I really admired, and she even helped me do the same. My mom hated this, calling June controlling and wishing I hadn't broken up with my previous girlfriend Margot, who my mom loved. I was with Margot for 5 years and it was horrible. Margot was very controlling and manipulative and always guilted me into things I wasn't comfortable with. But thanks to support from friends and my sister, I was able to leave her. It was hard, but I had help, and my life has improved since. My mom was very upset with this, but relationships didn't last, so she eventually let it go until I started dating June about a year later. When June and I announced our engagement, my mom didn't freak out, which was weird considering my mom hates June. She was very calm, but I just took it as she was finally accepting this, and so I didn't think much of it. Everything was fine and smooth up until the wedding. I gave both my parents +1s to the wedding since they both remarried after I graduated college. So I'm not close to their spouses, but gave them the option of inviting them. We had a very small ceremony, just immediate family and a few close friends. After the ceremony, me and June went to take pictures and then met back with everyone we invited to the reception, which was pretty big. When we got there, my sister and June's best friend, maid of honor, ran up to us in a panic. Before they even said anything, I spotted it. My mom was at the table with my dad's wife, and Margot. I wanted to freak, but June kept me calm. I walked over, pulled them both aside, and simply told them to leave. My mom tried to explain Margot and I are soulmates, and June is just in the way of true love, but I wasn't hearing it. I didn't care. Just got my best friends to escort them out, and I returned to the party where, luckily, after a few moments, I was able to relax and enjoy it. I really didn't think this would all turn into something huge, but me and June just got back from our honeymoon where we didn't have our phones. And seeing mine, I saw hundreds of texts from multiple family members. They all think I was an asshole for kicking my mom out of her only son's wedding. For the record, she was there for the ceremony, but apparently was really upset she was kicked from the reception. Here's a summary of my family's thoughts. Some think I could have just ignored Margot and didn't have to freak out. A few others, including my dad, think I should have just kicked Margot and let my mom stay, but after the stunt my mom pulled, I didn't want her there either. I'm starting to second-guess myself since everyone is really mad. June and my sister are on my side, but I fear my dad may be right, and I should have just let my mom stay and made Margot leave. So I've come to Reddit, AET. Update 1. So we've been back from the honeymoon for a few weeks now, and honestly, I thought the drama would have died down by this point. Turns out, I was very, very wrong. The texts, calls, and group chats haven't stopped. I can't even go an hour without someone from my family sending me a new passive-aggressive message or calling me up to talk. It's exhausting. June, thankfully, has been a rock through all of this, even though I know she's upset too. It's just become this never-ending saga where my mom's playing the victim, my dad's being weirdly quiet, and everyone else in the family has decided to pick a side. Spoiler, most of them are siding with my mom. Here's where it gets complicated. My mom's been telling anyone who'll listen that I humiliated her at the wedding. That's the word she's been using. Humiliated. I didn't think pulling her aside and calmly asking her to leave after she brought my ex-fiancé to my freaking wedding was humiliating her, but apparently she does. She's telling everyone how she was disrespected as the mother of the groom and that I embarrassed her in front of my entire family. Never mind the fact that she brought Margot, my ex-fiancé of 5 years, who made my life miserable and who I had to crawl out of a toxic relationship with. Somehow, in my mom's head, I'm the one in the wrong for not just sucking it up and letting them stay. And here's the kicker. She doesn't even see anything wrong with inviting Margot. In fact, she's now claiming she did it because, get this, she thinks I'm still in love with her. Yeah. My mom told my sister in one of their many phone conversations since the wedding that she believes I'm not truly in love with June and that I'm only marrying her out of obligation. Obligation to what? I have no idea. But apparently, in my mom's mind, my love for June isn't real, and Margot was, is, and will always be the one for me. You can't make this stuff up. My mom honestly thinks she was doing me a favor by bringing Margot, like she was saving me from making some huge mistake by marrying the wrong person. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised since she's never liked June from the start. It just still blows my mind that she would take it this far. What's worse is that Margot, predictably, is also playing along with this whole thing. I hadn't seen or spoken to her in over 2 years since we broke up, and I had no interest in ever reconnecting. But here she is, back in my life, in a sense, because of this stunt my mom pulled. And now she's popping up in the group chats too, acting all hurt, like she's the victim in this situation. She's telling my family that she just wanted to be there for me, and that she was invited by my mom and had no idea it would cause such a problem. Right? Like she didn't know that showing up at my wedding would be a major issue. But now, my family, especially the ones who've always loved her, are feeling sorry for her and saying I overreacted. They keep repeating the same thing. You could have just ignored her. That's what my uncle said in the family group chat yesterday. You didn't have to freak out like that. You could have just ignored her. First of all, I didn't freak out. I walked over, asked my mom and Margot to leave, and then moved on with the night. Sure, I was pissed, but I didn't cause a scene. I didn't start screaming or flipping tables or anything like that, but apparently just kicking them out is considered freaking out in my family's eyes. It's like they expect me to just be okay with my mom trying to sabotage my wedding because she thinks my ex is my soulmate. My dad's been oddly quiet through all of this. He's usually the type to stay out of family drama as much as possible, but I did get one text from him a few days ago that's been sticking with me. He said, "I don't agree with what your mom did, but you could have just asked Margot to leave and let your mom stay. That's what I would have done." He doesn't understand that it's not just about Margot being there. It's the fact that my mom brought her in the first place. It's the fact that she thought it was okay to do that, and then doubled down by saying Margot and I are soulmates, and that June is somehow getting in the way of true love. My dad seems to think that if I had just let my mom stay, this all would have blown over by now. Maybe he's right, but honestly, after what she pulled, I don't think I could have just ignored it. June and my sister are still 100% on my side, which is honestly the only thing keeping me sane right now. My sister has always had a complicated relationship with our mom, so she's not exactly shocked by any of this, but even she was blown away by the Margot thing. She told me she couldn't believe our mom would go that far, especially after everything I went through to get out of that relationship. June, bless her, is handling this way better than I am. She keeps reminding me that we made the right call, that my mom crossed a line, and that we don't owe anyone anything. But it's hard when so much of my family is against me on this. It's also starting to affect other parts of my life. My aunt, who I've always been really close to, hasn't been returning my calls. We used to talk all the time, but now she's barely responding to my texts, and when she does, it's short and cold. I can tell she's pissed off about what happened, but she won't come out and say it. I've also got a cousin who I used to hang out with regularly who hasn't spoken to me since the wedding. We used to grab a beer once a week, but he's ghosted me completely. I even found out through my sister that some of my family members are planning a family gathering next month, and I wasn't invited. It's insane how fast things have escalated, and all because I didn't let my mom get away with bringing my ex to my wedding. At this point, I don't know what to do. June and I are happy, and we're trying to just focus on that, but it's hard when it feels like half my family has turned against me. I keep replaying the day in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently, if I should have just let my mom stay like my dad said, or if I should have ignored Margot like my uncle suggested. But every time I think about it, I come back to the same conclusion. My mom crossed a line, and I did what I had to do. It's just frustrating that no one else seems to see it that way. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and things have somehow gotten even messier. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I gave everyone time and space, they'd cool off and start to see things from my perspective. But nope. In fact, things have escalated in ways I didn't even think were possible. I'm at the point now where I feel like I'm trapped in some bizarre family soap opera that I can't escape from. First off, my mom hasn't let up at all. In fact, she's doubled down. She's still going around telling everyone that I humiliated her and disrespected her as my mother by kicking her out of the wedding. But that's not even the worst part. I found out through my sister that she's been actively trying to convince people in the family that my marriage to June is some kind of mistake. She's telling everyone that June manipulated me into kicking her out, that I'm not thinking clearly, and that June is controlling me. It's so ridiculous I almost don't even know how to respond. June is literally the least controlling person I've ever been with, and she's the one who's been helping me set boundaries with my mom. But of course my mom is twisting that into June is controlling him. What's worse is that my mom has apparently started reaching out to people outside of the family too. She called up one of my childhood friends, someone I haven't spoken to in years, mind you, and told him this whole sob story about how I've abandoned her and how June is pulling me away from my family. This friend ended up messaging me out of the blue, asking if I was okay and if June was treating me right. At first, I had no idea where he was getting this from, but then he told me my mom had been talking to him. I had to spend over an hour explaining the entire situation to him, and thankfully, by the end of it, he was on my side and realized how insane my mom was being. But the fact that she's reaching out to random people from my past just to paint June as some kind of villain is deeply disturbing. Oh, and remember how I said Margot was starting to play the victim? Well, buckle up, because she's taken it to a whole new level. A few weeks ago, she posted a long, emotional rant on Facebook about losing her soulmate. It was this incredibly melodramatic post about how she had so much love to give and how fate had other plans. She never mentioned me by name, but it was obvious who she was talking about. And of course, my family members who are still obsessed with Margot were all over it, commenting things like, "You two were meant to be, and true love will find a way." One of my cousins even wrote, "He'll come back to you when he realizes his mistake." It was nauseating to read. I blocked her on everything after that, but the damage was already done. Now, people are even more convinced that I'm meant to be with Margot, and that I'm making some huge mistake by being with June. June saw the post too, unfortunately. She didn't say much about it at the time, but I could tell it bothered her. We've talked about it a bit since then, and she's reassured me that she's not letting it get to her, but I know it's been weighing on her. It's hard enough dealing with the normal stress that comes with getting married, but having to deal with my mom and Margot's nonsense on top of that has been tough on both of us. She's handling it like a champ, though, way better than I probably would be if the roles were reversed. She's been encouraging me to go to therapy to talk through all of this, and honestly, I think she's right. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing my mind. The family drama hasn't stopped there, though. My aunt, one of the people who's been the most vocal about how I handled the wedding, decided to host a family intervention for me. I didn't know it was an intervention at the time. I thought it was just a normal family dinner, but when I showed up, it was clear something was off. My mom was there, along with several of my aunts, uncles, and cousins who have all taken her side. They sat me down and started lecturing me about how I'm tearing the family apart and how I need to apologize to my mom. They kept bringing up the fact that she's my mother, as if that somehow excuses everything she's done. The whole thing was absurd. They kept saying things like, "She only did what she thought was best for you," and "She's your mom, she just wants what's best." I lost count of how many times I had to explain that what my mom did, bringing my ex to my wedding and trying to sabotage my relationship wasn't something a loving parent does. But they weren't hearing it. They kept repeating the same talking points about how I should have just let it go, and how family is more important than pride. At one point, my aunt actually said, "You need to think about your future. Do you really want to cut ties with your family over this?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like they were trying to guilt me into giving in and apologizing, even though I know I'm not the one in the wrong here. After what felt like hours of them berating me, I finally just stood up and walked out. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't yell or cause a scene. I just calmly got up, said I wasn't going to engage in this anymore, and left. My mom followed me out, of course, trying to guilt-trip me one last time before I drove off. She said, "You're breaking my heart. Don't you see what you're doing to this family?" I told her, "You did this, not me," and got in the car. I haven't spoken to her since. June has been amazing through all of this, but I can tell she's getting fed up too. Not with me, but with the constant drama. She's been trying to focus on our future and move on from all this, but it's hard when every day brings a new round of family nonsense. She's suggested we take a step back from my family for a while, and honestly, I think she's right. It's just exhausting at this point. We're newlyweds. We should be enjoying this time together, not dealing with endless drama. On top of everything else, my relationship with my dad is now strained. He's still been mostly quiet through all of this, but after the family intervention fiasco, he called me up to check in. He didn't outright say I was wrong, but he did say something along the lines of, "You know your mom's not perfect, but she's still your mother." It's like he's trying to play both sides, not wanting to rock the boat with my mom, but also not wanting to completely lose me either. I get it, but at the same time, it's frustrating. I wish he'd just take a stand for once and tell my mom she's out of line, but I know that's never going to happen. At this point, I'm seriously considering going low contact with my family. It's not what I want, but I don't know what else to do. They've made it clear they're not going to see things from my perspective, and I'm tired of constantly defending myself. June and I deserve to be happy without all this baggage dragging us down. I've already started distancing myself a bit, but I think it might be time to make it more official. I'm not cutting them off completely, at least not yet, but I need space. I can't keep living like this.